Assalamualaikum
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom,
Om Swastiastu.
Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan.
Welcome back to
National University Debate Championship of Universitas Negeri Surabaya 2024. We've just held preliminary round at 11th floor in Universitas Negeri Surabaya,
which was divided into 4 rooms.
Now we will see 4 teams that will compete on final round.
So in this room, we have 4 teams that will be divided into government and opposition.
There are FBSB as opening government,
FDB as opening opposition,
FBSA as closing government,
and FDA as closing opposition. So we will be debating under the motion this House will support the rise of the snail girl narrative among women.
To open the debate, let's call upon the first speaker from OG. Time is yours.
Cek segini. Okay. For POI preference, just raise your hand, and maybe I will answer around a minute or 5 if I still have the time to. So before I starting my speech, in 3, 2, 1. Panels and educator to realize that snail girl in our current status quo is way kind of a dissonant in tradition and of a narrative, as it's shown to be a bad narrative in our current status quo, as it's been influenced by every other society that thinks that this kind of snail girl narrative could be very bad, as it implicates that you will work slower on several conditions on your own workplace. But we do believe that this narrative is sufficient enough. In need that it still need to be emphasized, as it still have a several couple of burden that still need to be improvised. For example, 2 points. First, snail girl often being seen as a lazy, as bad, or even as a slow-paced girl. But we do believe that even if you are lazy itself, you are lazy enough, you still have the compatibility and have the responsibility to do your job in the right time. But secondly, snail girl narrative often being seen to be discriminalized or even being overshadowed because it looks so lazy and maybe full of stagnancy when you are in terms of working place. But we do believe that's not going to be true. This narrative is going to be okay, as we want to support and emphasize what this kind of narrative, as it's going to be actually very beneficial in several of complement mechanization. First, mechanization. The narrative of snail girl itself doesn't always mean that those individual is going to be very lazy as a snail. We do believe that this preservation of snail girl exists to give a certain nihility of mental health issue or even mental health preservation for their own self. But second, this is likely exists because status quo right now, a woman nowadays tend to live in a way to more that they want to have a certain sustainability on their life instead, as you are trying to be as individual woman or even woman working on a certain things, that it's going to be very complicated for you to attain any other related or even the opposite trait as a snail girl, for example, girl boss. Moving on, even if you are a slower in a certain condition and more relaxed, it does give such an ambitious cap, because we do believe that ambitious cap is going to be okay, because you could bring several nihility and several coping preservation for your mental health. But lastly, we still do their job. We do believe that they will still do their job even if at slow pace to maintain those sustainability on mental health, even though for their own job performance. But it doesn't mean that they have poor performance in some contagious way in their own workplace or current status quo. Moving on toward my first argumentation. Firstly, why we should support this kind of thing. 2 structuralized layer. First, let's characterize how women in current status quo right now in the end of the day. It's going to be very urgent, and it's going to be the main urgency of those women individual to attain this kind of narrative, as women still call people portrayed as a strong individual even though you didn't attain girl boss traits. Because we do believe that even though a person right now in our current status quo, a woman right now in current status quo, try to attain those girl boss traits as they want to be dominant in a narrative way. But we do believe that even though you still could be dominant, or even you still could have any other advantage, even though you have this snail girl thing. A, to live in certain hectic workplace or even busy area, adopting and supporting this narrative as a snail girl could be much safer for you to preserve your mental health and contentment, to bring a better preservation on your decision making if you are trying to seek for a job or working for a job. Sorry. But B, because likely when you attain girl boss trait, for example, women tend to look very bossy and not expressing certain workaholic trend or even dominant trait that they want to expose in the other day. But we do believe by emphasizing this, it's going to be way more better, because you still could rely on your own dominant thing, because you still could show how your performance is going to be much better, and how in the end of the day, even though you are slow paced, you still could manage your job in some certain time sensitivity. This likely happen because you don't need to look that attractive, because you don't need to push forward onto working or even to show your exposure traits like a girl boss. You could already optimize and have the ability to utilize your own condition or even mental health preservation in much way safer condition. Second layer, the workplace is somehow going to be very hectic and toxic. Whether you will encounter such bossy individual to support or even such bossy or even complicated co-worker to support, we do believe that to support and to emphasize this snail girl is going to be okay. 2 points. A, we will try to emphasize them as a snail girl implementation toward workplace is going to be way more better and liable, as they could still finish their job without any kind of pressure, because they still have those time sensitivity in the end of the day, even though they are slow. Doesn't mean they are slow like a snail, or even this is narrative going to be a snail girl, they won't finish their job. They still do and finish their own job in several good performance, and we believe that is likely to happen because they tend to be slow paced, but not to be stagnant. But B, as they are going to be much more relaxed, we believe that it also becomes the interest of company to provide a relaxing and environmental friendly workplace in the end of the day, when you could try to emphasize it into your other condition. Moving on toward my second argumentation, why is it likely that this narrative is going to be deemed better than any other narrative, or why this is going to be the main urgency to talk before? 2 structuralist point. A, at the end of the day, you can build a safe workplace, and you as a woman also don't need to be pressed so bad or even try to expose about yourself, try to expose about how you want to work or even your tangibility of energy to work in your workplace. You don't need to be like everything. You cannot be like you're a workaholic, or you cannot be like I can do everything in this workplace. But by being snail girl, you could preserve your own personality and trait in a way more preserved way, as you could build a better relationship with co-worker, as you are way more calm, as you are way more a slow pace, and you are way more relaxed. Doesn't mean that you are relaxing in all of your job. It's going to be very disturbing for your job and harmful. It's not going to be like that, because even if you are slow, you still have some kind of working tempo as a pace. But trade-off, even if snail girl is going to be very slow, at least the mental preservation on the workplace is going to be better. Also, it could reimagine the workplace force and for your environmental condition. For example, if you want to have some certain decision making. Lastly, what the implication when our mental health is going to be stable while you are working as a snail girl or even attaining this snail girl? 2 points. A, your mental health is going to be very balanced, as you could do something strategically or working on certain thing, such as doing a task with a time sensitive feasibility. You don't need to rush on something because you are a girl boss, because you want to look very attractive. But B, by this happening, you can also balance the interaction on your work area. Moreover, by implementing this, you could also encourage women aspiration to covering up their mental health necessity, as if it's going to be continuously support in those workplace that we believe that going to be very much flexible on their adaptation of workplace when they could preserve social snail girl. In the end of the day, when you succeed on bringing good woman treatment, you could emphasize and support the snail girl as a better narrative, as we do believe that it's not going to be harmful and still going to be much more beneficial than any other compared trait. We proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prime Minister, for your speech. You spent 7 minutes, 90 seconds. To continue the debate, let's call the first speaker of opening opposition. Time is yours.
Okay, am I audible? Okay. I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Some point to clarify as an opening opposition. First, one, we want we don't want a snail girl become the generalization of a woman in the perspective what a woman is. Summarize all opening government said that snail girl is not a generalization of the laziness of woman, is no harm to move in a slow pace, and is in the end of the day you still have a safe place to end up with. What is missing from opening government? First, the material of this debate is what things that we will see in the perspective of woman. What is woman will be looking after? For example, is the OG should push that woman is okay to be generalized as snail girl. Maybe generalization of the snail girl is good in the surface, but it will really harmful in the future. So, my response will be integrated to my argument. First, let's characterize again what is snail girl. Snail girl is a narrative that woman cannot be ambitious and can more be relaxed and embrace slower pace of life might seem appealing in the surface. But why this is was harmful? First, with the slow pace woman, the border about laziness and what the safe zone for people is will no longer available because the generalization. What this was the perfect point that OG missing to characterize. So why this is harmful? Snail girl will make other women who pursue their career, for example, the narrative of the boss girl, look like not be capable anymore. Because of what? If the generalization is implied to status quo, people will see that woman is not capable because they were tended to be lazy, they like to be in some safe place, not in the stuck in the comfort zone, and so on and so on. Maybe it's more safe for women to do that, but it's more healthy if we pursue the another narrative that OG not explain enough, yaitu that boss girl narrative. What is the boss girl narrative? First, boss girl narrative is a narrative that a woman can pursue the career, become more ambitious, and become more tended to be achieve more higher and higher. Why this is good? First, as a generalization, this will make a woman be characterized as a strong individual that can compete in the real world. Second, make a great characterization for woman as a leader. And third, in the end of the day, it will make woman not be a subject of patriarchy. Why we talk about patriarchy? Often, woman, the root of the patriarchy, because women tended to be submissive in the generalization. It same happen if we generalize the snail girl narrative. Why this is so shameful? We know in the current status quo that women have the facility to improve themselves. For example, in the current status quo, many of women can go to school. It's rightful right for them in the current status quo. Many of the women can be bachelor, major, and even can be the leader of some kind of job. This is what the feminism movement looks like. So if you generalize that snail girl narrative, it will harm the feminist movement that already exists and advanced in the current status quo. For example, look like in the past, the era Kartini worked really hard to make women to can achieve more, to be a boss girl, or become have the same right as, or we call equality of gender, but you pursue to make women become more submissive again. It's really harmful and very shameful in the movement of patriarchy that our heroes will fight about. Second, the facilities that happen is not just only from the education. For example, in the education, it's not just that in the education, many of the current status quo that provide scholarship for women to improve more and more. So if we not generalize, if we generalize that snarkle narrative is more powerful, it's not good for the future for the woman itself. So maybe opening government said that, oh, this is the girl boss narrative will harmful for the woman itself because it pushes them to work harder, and make a toxic achievement that cannot be achievable. We say no because of what? First, woman is not dumb enough to don't know their limit. They will know, as a human will know their limit as itself. So, and even if that's true, that people, that woman will burn itself because they pursue their career self, they will still get the closure about they achieve a higher position, that they have a same right as a woman. It's make a personal closure for them. For example, if the narrative is a boss girl. So it's in the perspective or our side that woman, the generalization of snarkle is really bad, and the generalization is not enough to tend that slow pace and keeping in the comfort zone is a good things to do. As opening opposition, we proudly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for Leader of Opposition for your speech. You spent 6 minutes 57 seconds to continue the debate. Let's call the second speaker of OG. Time is yours.
Check. Okay. Am I audible? For a POI reference, please just raise your hand. No voice nor noise in this, like in my speech. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The snail girl narrative should be put upon among women in the current era. Many of them tend to be put and looked on by the way they exist in the slow progress and tend to live their life to the fullest. This is showing a single amount of their lifestyle should be depicted in a way that's more applicable to the status quo, where the mean girls when the mean girl narrative is actually getting loaded through the time. The exact and foremost reason to be taken into account why this house roots for this narrative is, first, rushing things has never been a way to gain the feelings of amusement. Why? A, many women put their feelings first, so they tend to overlook the resonated actions in their experiencing thing. B, because of feminism, they're likely to go all out rather to back up, so that things can be done wrong and irrationally. Second, the narrative of being relaxed and less ambitious gets to the point where it should be valued. And third, not all women have the urge to get so serious, where women are also suffering from the cliche spread among the various societies that being lazy, aka viewed as snail girls, does make women image worse like in this society. I will bring some rebuttals responding to the oppositions that is actually relevant to this debate. It's that first, the word cannot be ambitious, is initially not in line with the initial term of the snail girls itself. This shows how the opening opposition fails to understand the exact value and meaning of this motion. Second of all, being snail girls doesn't mean that laziness is a bliss, but it actually goes further to the higher extent of happiness and enjoyment. Third one, bringing the cartoony era is incompatible with the current status quo. Being marginalized doesn't have to persist in our society, where women in their comfort are still fighting for the rights to live out their dream. The extension to the first speaker of the opening government, I would just bring it in a second. The first one is the narrative. of the snail girl does not only apply to portray the likelihood to become better as women, but also in other fields, such as schools. The snail girls are more likely to enjoy their life by considering their condition and circumstances than the girl boss that just get to go further on their own, being so ambitious and rather get fewer friends at schools or even university, which I can see like in everyday situation. Second of all, snail girls have a better self-control to just sit down and think more rationally and critically, because they didn't really have to put any burden on top of their head, knowing that achieving something should not be horrendously put into practice. A couple of responses from the opening opposition. OG said about slow could be safe zone because it's generalized. Even though you are working on your safe zone, we're going to make by attaining snail girls is going to be that you could work and improve on your safe zone. B, even though you're working on safe and slow-paced condition, you still have boundaries and burden between work and mental health preservations. The implication is women still aware about their own boundaries to compete the work and the job. The thing that differentiates the things is that because it's two different things, but snail girl's personality will support your working activity. Even if you say this is wrong, it could be much more wrong if you normalize girls on attaining such attractive traits that only rush and emphasize on working status quo. In the end, when you have better mental preservation, you could work in a way more comfortable circumstances. This is exclusive on our side. The perseverance and self-control is a winning point to give out, as a snail girl narrative is supporting this idea initially. Proud to propose.
Okay, thank you, DPM, for your speech. You spent 4 minutes, 21 seconds. To continue the debate, let's call the second speaker of opening opposition. Time is yours.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I stand here to give response for was to integrate it to first speaker. Okay, I want to talk about girl boss. What do you think? What do you think about a girl boss? It is feel like powerful, right? That means that girl is really want to try to gain her dream to show herself. Let's come back to Kartini era. We know that in Kartini era you cannot get education as free as now. And then you have to notice the background why Raden Ajeng Kartini as a big woman hero fight for women. Patriarchy is the reason. Patriarchy is still become a problem in our country, like it has become a culture. That why with a girl boss it will become one step to erase that bad culture and make women can enjoy get her right like education, opportunity to get good careers. As example, like Puan Maharani, we know that she have a good career in politics. And now, you have to know that facilities now are developed more and more. And women can get it easily. That's why you have to use it wisely. If you become a snail girl that just to enjoy your life or not see about how fasting the world changing, it will make you left behind, and anyone can take your change. And then I will talk more about feminism. Feminism is fight for gender equality. They goal to make all women can get their right. But if you become a snail girl, it means that you shame that feminism, that fight for feminism. Okay, last you will see the difference from who fight for the. I will say the difference or who fight from the woman who fight for her life or for her goal. They will be trying to reach it as soon as possible. That's why they do that thing. It's to become change her life. And we know that snail girl enjoy her life, but OG say that, but it's not stand. I know that, but if you just enjoy, you will not notice that the world changing, everything changing, and you just left behind. And I think it will make this era come back to cartoony era that we have facility, we have everything, but why we not use that as soon as possible? We can reach that as soon as possible. That's why if you enjoy your life, just waiting for change, just waiting for your mood for develop yourself, I think it will not be work. Cause what? That it will be not working. Cause what? Girl boss who will take the chance, or anyone can take the chance. Cause change not come twice. Okay, and you have noticed that women have to stand in her feet. Women have to stand in her feet, cause everything right now have to independent. Like you have to become independent for free. Like to achieving everything, you have to develop, and then it will be. And it will be the key. It will be the key. It will be the key for your future. That's why, as a opposition team, we oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, DLO, for your speech. You spent 5 minutes, 33 seconds to continue the debate and open the closing bench. Let's call the first speaker of CG. Time is yours.
So for POI preference, if you have any POI, please raise your hand or stand up. Don't say POI or say any words since it's going to be disrupting for my speech. So yeah. There might be some sentences that feel sensitive and emotionally attached for women especially, but yeah, it's just for the purpose of the debate. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, understand that the reason why this kind of a snail girl narrative exists is because how the status quo right now, those kind of girl boss narrative shape women's mindset that they need to be independent, cannot rely on other people, especially from the man in itself. Those kind of narrative, until the extent women that work that hard and they neglect their emotional feeling at the end of the day. They think that their feeling of tired, sad is useless and make them feel less independent as a woman in itself, right? Girl boss narrative forcing women to shut down their emotional state, and at the end of the day, those kind of narrative that purpose for protecting women from the very first beginning will going to backstab themselves and hurt women even more at the end of the day, right? One mechanism that we're going to have as a CG in itself, we want to campaigning that be a snail girl is actually okay, and you are still a meaningful girl even if you are slow-paced woman, you have a snail girl and not be a girl boss in itself, and so on and so forth, right? Before coming to my argument, several responses toward OG and OO in itself. We see that OG whole cases rely on how explaining how the snail girl narration in itself is going to make them make women survive in the workplace, for example, and so on and so forth. In CG, we will explain how this kind of snail girl supporting the snail girl in itself is the core reason why it is need to be accessed, and this kind of explanation is going to be the prerequisite of the OG benefit. So OG benefit only can fly at the moment CG explanation is in the debate in itself, right? Talking about how this kind of snail girl narrative is accessed and why it is need to be supported at the end of the day, right? But come to OO, we see that OO talking about how in the status quo right now, those kind of snail girl portrayed as a lazy, they're not doing anything, and so on and so forth. We see that in the status quo, this kind of perspective is actually not because of the snail girl narrative, but it is because women trapped in the girl boss narrative. They are exhausted after they go to work, they are burned out because of the working 9 to 5 a week, for example, with the current girl boss narrative in itself, right? Exactly. With the opposition proposal, women are hard to heal themselves from that kind of burnout. That's the reason why snail girl narrative is access, and we need to be support those kind of narrative in neutralizing the harm of the girl boss narrative that become already so toxic in the status quo right now, right? So coming to my arguments, two arguments that I'm going to talk. First argument talking about why snail girl is actually needed to be supported anyway. Two layer of arguments. First layer talking about what will happen if we not promote the snail girl narrative in itself. Status quo right now already toxic, that it is already forced women to keep working, they be independent as they working, for example. What will happen after that is women feel discouraged when they do not work, when they feel tired to work, for example. They will feel useless and blaming themselves why they cannot be independent, why they are useless as a woman, they are not meet the standard of the meaningful life as a woman in itself when they are not working. How it could be happens? The environment of women need to follow men and cannot speak up for themselves at the very first place in itself is access. As the girl boss narrative rises as a solvency of those kind of environment, and it becomes standard, those kind of narrative arrange the mindset as to be a strong woman, you need to work 9 to 5, you need to work to be independent, and so on and so forth, right? At the moment they stop to work, they feel tired, they feel burn out about the work in itself, they will discouraging themselves, questioning, am I already be a successfully life as a woman in itself, and so on and so forth, right? This is the right time that the snail girl narrative is accessed and be supported in itself to open the idea of women, or the idea of it is okay for you as a woman to go slow paced in itself. It's not going to be reducing the meaningful life as a woman in itself when you are not working, where you cannot work, for example, and so on and so forth, right? So we believe that those kind of snail girl narrative become the neutralization of the toxicness that already exists in the status quo right now. But B, talking about how at least we want to make society much more accustomed to the idea of women take it slow in itself is still okay with this kind of snail girl narrative. Why? Society now perceive women who is a part of feminist in itself as a tough woman in itself. For example, how men always say, if you are strong, if you are feminist, so you need to work, for example, and so on and so forth, right? Then go to work, find your own money. This kind of scenario will make women have to constantly work to prove that they are actually strong, and they can live not rely on men, for example, and so on and so forth. This become toxic because why? Because it limits the possibility for women to rest by the society's stigmatization in itself. At least, if we support the idea of the snail girl in itself, society will gradually accept the idea of women take it slow, and it is okay for you to take a rest from those kind of work, for example, and so on and so forth, right? It's going to protect women more at the end of the day. But second layer, talking about how this kind of snail girl narrative is actually become a safe place from the toxicness that already exists in the status quo in itself. Girl boss narrative make women go beyond their limit, try to prove why women can be independent no matter what happens. They will feel exhausted, and they're going to, no one will validate their feelings, saying that you need to always be strong and so on and so forth. Even if the support system is exists, the aftermath of the support is you need to go back to stronger, you need to go work again, so be independent and so on and so forth, right? We see that this kind of snail girl narrative propose how you can be not working anymore. If you are tired, it's okay for you to not work and so on and so forth. At least you enjoy your life at the end of the day, right? That is what we want when we're supporting this kind of girl boss, this kind of snail girls narrative in itself, right? But second argument, talking about the feminist value or the interest in itself. Talk to you how this kind of snail girl is going to harm the feminist value. But we think that is not true from very first place. Why? Feminist main goal is not only make women be independent and strong, but it is actually to protect women and give them the empowerment to live as a woman in itself, make women be appreciated and appreciated by all people in this world in itself, right? Those kind of protection is not only become a girl boss in itself, but it is at the moment those kind of girl boss narrative already be toxic. We need to protect those kind of women as a feminist value in itself with this kind of snail girl to make sure that women can appreciate their life and enjoy their life as a woman. So we proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, member of government, for your speech. You spent 7 minutes, 20 seconds. To continue the debate, let's call the first speaker of closing opposition. Time is yours.
I will be delivering my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen of the audiences, honorable judges and fellow debaters. First thing first, what makes us different between the opening opposition and the closing opposition? The opening opposition only explain on why being lazy is bad and girl boss narrative is good. This analysis only good on the surface, but closing opposition will talk more about the impact itself, especially for the community like feminism. Here, closing opponent will explain about the impact of the rising narrative of snail girl to the material of internal of feminist movement, media exposure, and also anti-feminist. This is more important to talk because it gives better materializations of impact that missing in opening opposition. Thus, we can claim that we are much more better than the opening opposition. Before explaining some of the substance of the arguments, there are several responses for the affirmative theme. First, opening government says that snail girl narrative will create safe space. A safe space doesn't really need a snail girl narrative. For example, simply when you're supporting others, there is a girl supporting girl movement, but also it can also be a human supporting human. That means also a safe space. A safe space can also be got and can also be obtained from our friends. And let's dive into my argument. My first argument, I will explain why this snail girl narrative among women is bad. The rising trend of snail girl will regress the progress that feminists have already had. We all know that the feminists nowadays has already proposed a lot of things about women to raise the status of the woman, but this kind of trend will just decline it all. And it will make a contradiction that will lead to several outcomes. One, there will be an internal fraction between the feminists itself, and I mean the controversy. This controversy will divide the group into two parts. And the second one, as if it is contradictive, this idea can be used for anti-feminism, even can be used in politics, that they say that the feminists are not solid and so on. And people who don't like the idea of feminism from the scratch will use this as a weapon to make the society hate the feminists more, the feminist movement. And again, the efforts of our friends of feminism will all be useless. And the third one is the media exposure and public discourse will also be bad. For example, media will point out the bad side of this topic. It is a sure fact that the media will expose the bad side of us. A lot of people nowadays still don't like the idea of feminism, as the news rises about the bad side of women that is presumably caused by the feminists. People will all be happy to watching it. Why? We know that the media often focus on negative events because they tend to attract more attention and generate higher viewerships or readership, and this phenomenon known as the negativity bias is rooted in human psychology, where people naturally more drawn to negativity information such like this. And additionally, it is sensationalizing that the bad news can increase audience engagement and drive higher advertising revenue for the media outlets. And the second argument will be, we know that the woman nowadays, lots of women has already their career on peak, and it will just ruin the woman career if they are being a snail girl. And this long voyage to get the high position and all of the hardship that is sacrificed is just being useless by this movement. And they will start questioning themselves about how they used to live, how they have to hustle in work, and how they have to hard work. Is it the right or the wrong one? As some people may already be at higher position, and this also could be traced from before the Independence Day, where the Kartini, as the heroes of women, really sacrificed herself to raise the status of the woman so that the woman can get the status in public and the society. But with the rising of this movement, again, people will reckon that women do like slow living. And the third argument will be why emotional states still accommodate even we're promoting girl bosses. The feminists are not strict that if you choose not to be a girl boss, they will just be supporting you, not will deceiving you. And thus, we as the closing opposition would not support the rise of snail girl narrative among women. That is all from me. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, Member of Opposition, for your speech. You spent 5 minutes, 49 seconds to continue the debate. Let's call the second speaker of CG. Time is yours.
Check, am I audible? POI preference is to just by wave your hands. You don't need to speak because it's going to be disruptive towards my speech. I would probably say some sensitive contents. It does not reflect of who I am. It's just for the purpose of the debate. Therefore, do not judge me. Okay. Going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, do not buy the opening debate, the opening bench debate, because they clearly have different point of view. They are in deadlock debate. Because first thing first, the only way opening government can win in this debate is by accepting the prerequisite idea of my first speaker of the closing government. Second thing second, opening opposition basically try to kill their own argumentations by bringing about lazy women and etc., which I will explain later why it is something that should not be discussed under this debate. But yeah, I'm going to prove to you why at the end of the day closing government should win in this debate compared to the other benches. I'm going to start by trying to tackle down opening opposition first. Second is closing opposition, and lastly opening government, on why at the end of the day closing government should win the this debate. But first thing first, two main points from opening opposition. First thing first, to talk about how the border of laziness and taking it slow from women will be gone if we actually normalize the idea of the snail girl narrative. Second thing second, they talk about how it will harm feminist movement and it will harm the future generation of women. Basically almost identical with closing opposition, but I don't. But I will try to integrate both argumentation in my responses. First thing first, regarding the idea of the border of laziness from women and taking it slow from women will be gone if we actually normalize normalize the idea of snail girl is something that is pretty much extreme under the side of the house. Why? Panels opening opposition oversimplify the idea of snail girl narrative as something that could make women become lazy. Why opening opposition failed to portray the core essence of snail girl? A, understand that the idea of lazy woman is more of a tired woman. The idea of lazy woman is more of a tired woman. What do we mean by this? What we mean is that women who has gone through a lot of stuff, who have worked themselves for hundreds of hours in this company, or have gone through a lot of traumatic event, for example. That is the idea that they're trying to portray as lazy women in this debate. This is the type of woman who's feeling burned out, for example, at that moment. Exactly why snail girl narrative is needed, or something that is important, because the idea of women need to work themselves to the point of exhaustion is toxic. The idea of women that need to cope by themselves, for example, after a traumatic event is something that is toxic, and that is what the opening opposition is trying to normalize, right? And exactly why opening opposition is also proposing toxic belief, because their whole point is that opening opposition wants women to work hard to achieve great things, to achieve great accomplishment, for example. But when women feel tired and burned out, the opposition bench will call these women as lazy women, as women that does not do anything, and etc. Or is proving why the idea of this narration is eventually important at the end of the day. But yeah, let's Axel, sure. Why feminist movement is that aggressive? Well, I don't think that I was talking about feminist movement. I was talking about how that if you want to say that women is lazy, is basically a misinterpretation of the condition of women. I'm not exactly precisely saying it's about feminist response. It's about how society react to it, right? I think you missed that point too, Axel. Go sit down. But even if they are lazy at their core, we're going to say it's okay, right? Why? At the very least, they accept themselves first. Okay, they reflect to themselves if they are lazy and etc., if they haven't done anything. If opening opposition wants women to achieve glorious things, for example, the prerequisite to do that is to accept, okay, I'm lazy. Why is this important? Because you will be stagnant if you keep denying that you're lazy. You will constantly say that, oh, I'm actually busy right now, and etc. But there is no any kind of improvement at all. At least on our side of the house, if we actually normalize the narration, the moment they accept who they are, what they do exactly, they're able to evaluate themselves. Why? Because they're not in denial anymore, and they are ready to make improvement, for example, and etc. And this is exactly why it is important in our side of the house, and opening opposition missed out on that point. But second thing second, let's talk about how they talk about it will harm feminist movement and it will harm the future generation of women. Kind of a generalization, but closing opposition also touched down on that. We never actually understand how the narrative of snail girl for women, for example, is something that will harm feminism at their core or the future generation of women in general. Why? First thing first, let's talk about the idea of feminists, and this is a precise direct response to closing opposition regarding the feminists being fractured and whatnot. First thing first, let's talk about the idea of feminism. Feminism is that you as women can accept yourself. For example, like how feminism urge you to accept your body, your face, your achievement, for example, and etc. What is the implication actually? The implication is that feminism wants you to love yourself, for example. Exactly, it is in line with the narration, which is to stop the idea that you have to be working 24/7 when in reality you are so tired. That's the implication for women to stop being denial of themselves and start loving them wholly, for example. Yeah, and let's tackle down on closing opposition. How they talk about this kind of narration will be used in politics, and it will start bad discourse. I don't understand why this is something is important, because at the end of the day what women do is going to be criticized by every single point of society. For example, like how if you're a woman and you wear makeup in public, you will be criticized, or you're just chopper, for example, you're just trying to get the attention of men, for example, and etc. Therefore, I don't get the point why politicians or other part of society making a bad discourse of you as a woman is something that's important, because at the end of the day the status quo is about women accepting themselves with this narration. Yeah, that's why we're proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Government Whip, for your speech. You spent 7 minutes, 90 seconds. To close the whole debate for this round, let's call the second speaker of closing opposition. Time is yours.
Okay, I hope it's audible. Tapi oke lah. Shut up. Before start, mungkin beberapa disclaimer. Satu, whatever I said, it's not something personal. It's maybe only for the sake of the debate. So if there are something sensitive, please don't take it personal. Number two, maybe it's my last speech in UNESA, but anyway, let's start. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, I think this debate should not talk about lazy versus workaholic, but more into the impact of rising narratives. Therefore, it's clear that closing opposition higher than opening opposition, because opening oppositions only talk about why lazy is bad and why workaholic is important. Well, we're not debating on that. We're debating on how this particular narrative rises in status quo, and does the impact will be harmful for feminists, or it's something that's going to be beneficial, as what government bench try to characterize. Therefore, everything will be integrated. I will talk about two things. One, I will talk about standardization, because that's both opening government and closing government have the same contention on standardization. Number two, I will talk about structural changes and why everything will goes to closing opposition at the end. First thing first, let's talk about standardization. So what do we get in GovBench? GovBench said about 3 things. One, they say that being a girl boss and being workaholic and dominance is not for everyone. It's hard to achieve state by opening government. Number 2, they claim that women are inherently different, hence snail girl narrative is important. Number 3, they talk about creating a safe space. So a couple responses for this. 1, I think this point will fall by simple contextualization that governments always forget. So how exactly girl boss narrative being portrayed in status quo? It never clear in all 3 other benches towards how this particular girl boss narrative being popularized by feminist movement. This is why my POI2 novel does matter. So how exactly feminist movement work in status quo? Feminist movement work in a very unique way. Sure, they will always encourage you to be independent, to be a girl boss in some sort of degree, but they never judgmental, ladies and gentlemen, to fellow sister who fail to achieve the standard just yet. In fact, they will support its growth in a very unique way possible. This is why the emotional support that closing government try to achieve on still exists even in status quo when snail girl narrative does not rises. So, if there are women who are submissive and maybe they just want to be a normal housewife, which is snail girl to begin with, rather than saying shame on you, they will say keep it up, keep up the spirit, you can do it, we will support you at the end of the day to be independent. This is the implication of this contextualization is simple. Even if standard exists, like what governments try to characterize, this standard will not be something that is oppressive and corrosive, but rather something that is constructive and helping for these particular women to grow at the end of the day. Therefore, their base point falling down. But second, what if expectation exists? Because all governments always try to argue that feminist movement or everyone all around this world will expect every single woman to be a girl boss, right? Sure, in worst case scenario, expectation exists. But 2 things for that. 1, the expectation will not be toxic. Expectation only toxic when you are being judgmental and not giving anything to support the growth of this particular individual. In fact, feminist movement always give support in return of their expectation, ladies and gentlemen. Things like, if there are women politicians, for example, they always try to encourage the creation of women safe policy, for example, or if they are simply like just normal women all around this world, they will simply give you a lot of accommodation, supportive towards you, give you a hug whenever you want, and therefore it's something that will not be toxic. But number 2, expectation will be worth it in long term, and this is the thing that always being dismissed by side government. Therefore, we triumph in closing opposition. But number 3 in responses. What are the outcome of both opening government and closing government? Safe space. They call it safe space. I will call it illusion of safety and also security. Because at the end of the day, what you call as safe space in both opening gov and closing government will only be an illusion, as if it's okay for you to stay silent in your house and stay becoming slow as much as possible. Sure, you will feel comfortable at first, but when you see your fellow sister fighting for empowerment, trying to encourage everyone that women is not weak and we are independent at the end of the day, you will realize that this world is not as good as you think, and therefore you need to do something, ladies and gentlemen. This is what construct emotional destruction even inside opening government or closing government if they want to achieve safe space. This is why my member analysis does matter, because what we need right now, it's not safe space that is fake, but what we need is a real picturization towards why we have progressivity and why we have independence as a women. So how should we weigh this? Simple. Even if in worst case scenario in closing opposition we push women to their limit, at least it will be worth it, and at least they contribute so much and they will not getting oppressed due to the unique characterization of feminist movement. But second contention, let's talk about structural changes. It comes from closing government saying that the rise of snail girl narrative will eventually change people's mindset, because it is people will start to accept that women can be sometimes slow, sometimes not productive, and so on. I think this is too idealistic in so many levels. We say people's responses will not be as good as what closing government try to characterize. More than that, they never try to explain how exactly people will react and what is their characterization. This is why my member contention matter. three things why the reaction will be bad. One, media exposure. Understand, media always want controversy and contradiction in feminist movement, because at first you always encourage women to be independent, then right now you will push the idea that it's okay for you to be slow, will foreverly being portrayed by media that it is a clear contradiction by feminist movement. And what happens after controversy? Of course, public discourses will be blown up, and it will not be good, especially if you play in a very very bad environment that's super oppressive to women. But second, it will also be capitalized by anti-feminist movement. This is important, by the way, because this debate should talk about the empowerment of women. Every band can sit on that. So, anti-feminist movement that will capitalize the idea that this Snellger narrative will contradict the very essence of feminist movement that they always try to glorify over and over again in every single campaign of them, will most likely create regression in terms of progress. And therefore, it will be bad. It will only ruin the very safe space which is feminist movement, ladies and gentlemen. So, and also it will create fraction internally, which have been explained. What is the response of CG? They only say that people will criticize the one who caper in media social. Understand that we play in a specific characteristic of people who are judgmental to women. All bench agree on that. Therefore, their responses is uncontrollable. We proud to oppose.
Thank you for opposition whip for your speech. You spent 6 minutes 34 seconds.
Okay, thank you all debaters for the speech. That wraps up our debate in this room.
So, for participants, please stay tuned to see the winner of NUDC UNESA 2024. We'll be right back soon.
Next, for the adjudicator, you may give the oral adjudication. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom,
Om Swastiastu,
Namo Buddhaya,
Salam Kebajikan. Welcome back to the National University Debate Championship of UNESA 2024.
So, how it going, Nina? Are you still excited to know who is the winner?
Yes, Zahwa and all of the participants here. For your information, the winner of today's competition will represent Universitas Negeri Surabaya to the regional level.
Okay, without further ado, let's call Mr. Aditya Janu as the core adjudicator to announce the winner of NUDC UNESA 2024.
Okay, for Mr. Aditya Janu, you may come to the stage to announce the winner.
Test. All right. Hi guys, welcome back to the announcement. So I'll be announcing the result of grand final round as well as the best speaker according to the 2 preliminary rounds. But the final delegates will be announced tomorrow after everything decided, especially KDME sessions tomorrow also finished. Okay, without further ado, let's announce the result from the grand final round. We have 4 teams in grand final. We have FTA, FTB, FBSA, and FBFB. So I'll start to announce the 3rd winner of the grand final round this year editions of NUDC UNESA. And the 3rd winner is Closing Government FBSA, Deandra Putri Febrianti and Muhammad Noval Hilmi. And the 2nd winner, congratulations, Opening Government FBSB, Muhammad Arya Barizi and Delon Arjuna. And the 1st winner of NUDC UNESA 2024, congratulations, Closing Opposition FTA, Muhammad Axel and Ahmad Fahmi. And the best speaker of this year, congratulations, Muhammad Axel Radityo Aji from FTA.
For all the winners, please come to the stage to receive the awards.
Once again, for all the winners, please come to the stage to accept. Okay, next we will invite Miss Yati Septiani Mustar SKM MPH to come to the stages to give the awards for the winners.
We're also invite all of the adjudicator and the director of student affairs to take a picture with all of the winners. Please stay in the stage to take a picture together.
the winners, you may come to sit down.
Then concludes our today event.
Once again, congratulations for all the winners and best speakers.
May all the best luck be with you, commissaries. For those who did not success today, may all the best opportunities be with you also.
Thank you for attending this competitive event.
We hope that all of you learned something from today's debate selection.
After our program this afternoon, I am Jayatri Ardanina Wibowo and my partner,
Zahwa Amelia Turmalin, as Master of
Ceremony,
Ceremony,
said goodbye. Thank you for all your attention. Apologize for any shortcomings.
See you at the next National University of Debate Championship.
Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.